What's going on, motherfuckers? Just started.
Starting right out the gate. This is Devin, that's Biker Mike from Mars, coming at you from the podhole.
We are the blue collar philosophers. So I was doing some major advertising for us over the weekend.
Oh, you were?
We had a family event out at my aunt and uncle's place. And I don't know, conversations come up, and I'm like, actually, we talked about something similar to that. Actually, we talked about that, and it came up so much that I just seemed like a whore.
Oh, that's hilarious.
How was your week?
What? No, it's been mellow. After a week of lots and lots of stuff going on, this week has kind of just been head down, tail up, buckle down at work, and just get ready for having a fun weekend.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad, because mine was fucking chaos.
Do tell. Do tell.
All right, so last week we started preparing our trailer so that we can go on this camping trip that we were going to go on. And so I ripped the stove out. I built a shelf. I like all the actual construction stuff I do. And my wife, she cleaned the trailer.
Equal effort.
And painted. She did.
Okay. That is a thing. Painting sucks.
Painting does suck. And she's like, I want to paint. And I put a new piece of ceiling in. I did this, that, and the other. And she painted like a boss. Well, I was working. And then I'd come home. So every single night for a whole week, I was like getting home, work. Like everything, every spare minute was going into this trailer, getting it all ready. Because, we just wanted to have something a little more us. And so we got this trailer ready. And it was great. It was fun.
By trailer, you mean camper, right?
Camper trailer, yeah. And so we get ready this whole week. And then we go camping. I borrow buddy's truck. And it's a 7.3 diesel. And he's like, this is a big truck. You're not even going to notice that trailer. Keep your eye on it because it'll just be wailing in the wind or just going crazy back there, and you'll have no idea. My trailer's from the early 70s.
Yep.
They made everything back then fucking heavy. He's like, you won't notice it. I'm like, I noticed it the whole time. Speak of the devil,
he's calling you right now.
He is calling me. I'm just going to text him. All right, in a minute. So he told me, keep an eye on it, this, that, and the other. I felt it the whole way. He's like, no matter how much you travel, you will not, the fuel mileage will be the same. With or without a trailer, it's going to be good. Like, it just doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking nay.
Nay.
I went 3 hours away. Could you take a guess at how much fuel that cost me?
Honestly, no.
No?
It's been so long since I've driven any length of time in a diesel truck.
Okay, the tank was at half. I put $150 in.
Yeah.
And drove 3 hours away. I was under half on the way there. So on one part of the trip, I spent at least $150 to $170 on fuel.
So, question though, would it be that same mileage without the trailer?
He said it would be. He said with or without the trailer, it'll be the same.
It'll be the same. Okay.
And I don't believe him. I think the trailer did add a lot of weight because this thing is normally pretty good on fuel. Like, he can drive around for 3-4 weeks without any fill-up indication.
From his work to his home, though, is like...
Yeah, but then other
drive.
jobs, like down in Taylor and down in the area, like when we go there, he drives for 3 weeks or whatever. So... I drive all the way there with this stupid trailer on the back. We do our camping trip. I'm whoring myself out just like telling all these stories. And I got to hop on a dirt bike again. And I was telling you, it was so much fun. I was just whipping it around. I haven't done it I want to say I haven't done it in over 10 years.
Yeah. So just pause for a second there. I love how you say pouring myself out. Like hanging out is such a big hardship.
Yes, just like, giving everything I have.
I am bequeathing to you guys my inner energy. Like Jesus poured himself out on the cross, I stand before you, pouring out my Mikeness on you.
You're welcome, everyone.
You're welcome.
That I drove this way to tell you about me.
Oh, that's so funny.
And so, I
so sacrilegious, but funny.
I had some great conversations with people, and it was a lot of fun. And even guys on Sunday, they did a baptism after their church. At my aunt and uncle's lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle have a lake. and it was so much fun. I was chatting with some of the guys there, and they challenged me on a few thoughts, and I was like, "Oh, this will be interesting." And I told one of them about the podcast. He's like, "I travel a lot. What's your podcast called?" And him and I have had a few conversations before, but nothing really deep. And so we were having other conversations, and they went quite well. But I disagree with him in a lot of areas, and he disagrees with me, which is good. It's fine. And I told him about our liberal friend that comes on the podcast, and he's like, "Oh, that's so good."
That one time.
That one time. We'll have him on again once we have more time. I'm sorry, but summer's so fucking busy. You guys are lucky.
Right?
You guys get one a week.
It is actually like kind of hard to get together to do this.
Oh yeah, because there's so much to do right now.
Right now, we're at the point where we're living podcast to podcast. Like,
Yeah,
it's
like,
there's none in the bank.
This one's going out next week. We have less than and hopefully next week.
So what? 4 days. It's going out in 4 days.
Yeah, this one's going out in 4 days, and so yeah, had some great conversations. Got to dirt bike. Got to do all these things and drink beer most of the time, except for when the baptism started, which ruined everything.
We can't drink during baptism?
Apparently, not with this church. And I went to this church, and I mean this in the least amount offensive possible. But the pastor who spoke the message, he didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. Like, he said stuff and words, but there was no substance. There was nothing there. I'm like, what is going on? Sorry, my brother's texting me too. I'm very popular tonight. It's
I know.
fucking
Turn your
annoying.
fucking phone off. Jeez.
I just threw it across the room.
Good.
Violently.
Just watch mine's going to start going crazy next. Right after making a big deal.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun just hanging out with everybody. Anyways, this pastor, he spoke his message. It was about if you're depressed, what you need is more Jesus.
Oh, that's a whole podcast right there.
I know. And I'm
Holy
just like,
shit. I smell a sacred slaughterhouse coming on.
Just more Jesus. You you choose to be happy and more Jesus.
Okay. Yep. Write it down on the whiteboard right now.
All right. You got to talk then.
Frick.
Well, I'm writing. You have to be saying
I'm sorry. That kind of put me all on tilt. Yeah. So, yeah, my week has... Yeah, nothing really of substance happened this week. You know, the week before, we had brother-in-law up. He's back now in Labrador, Newfoundland. Actually, we took a ride.
Yeah, you did.
My dad with my mom on the bike, Danny with his wife on the bike, and me with Carissa on the bike. And so this is the first time my wife has ridden on the bike all year. And she had mentioned how much she was looking forward to it and how much she loves, you know, the speed of the bike, stuff like that. I was like, okay, heck yeah. And I think subconsciously I interpret that as ride like a maniac for her sake.
I don't understand the problem here.
So much fun. But like at one point though, I was like, oh, I need to stop and let everybody else catch up because they're being responsible adults.
Yes, like when we were riding with our kids.
Yeah. Well, at one point, Danny, he was riding Stretch's bike, that
Road Glide.
Yeah, that Road Glide with the 96 done up to the 103 and stuff like that. Like that bike's no slouch.
Oh yeah, it's a great scoot.
Yeah. And so he kind of gave me the rev at a red light, like, "Hey, let's do this." Like, all right.
Wait, you got Chris on the back with you?
Yes.
Who did he have?
Crystal.
Oh, so he did have Crystal on the back. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just making sure he wasn't going solo because the power to weight ratio.
Even so, we're a solid 100 pounds heavier.
Yes, I know, but that's why I'm saying, like, if you had your wife and he had nobody, and like, I don't care how heavy and fucking stupid Harleys are sometimes, like.
Yeah, so and Rosie, she is a Harley weight bike.
Oh yeah,
like that's a 900-pound bike easy.
Yep. So I was just trying to put it all in perspective so everyone knows.
And Danny's a tall beanpole.
Yes.
And Crystal, she's not a beanpole, but she's not a big woman.
No.
And then there's me and my wife, who are two very large people.
They're not obese. They're just you're stout and she's tall.
We have bone structure on our side.
Yeah, but she's tall with bone structure.
So I'm like, all right, let's do this. And the light turns green, and we hit it. And Rosie wheelies
No.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yes.
So we wheelie and then lay it down, and then we're just gone on them.
Good.
Just see you later. We got to the next stop. Danny was like, "Holy shit, that thing's fast."
Yeah.
Like I was giving this bike all the beans,
All
everything
the beans.
everything I had, and you were just gone.
Yeah.
Si, senor. Yeah,
That's-
I thought I was in for the tongue lashing of the century, like, you know,
How irresponsible can you be?
popping the front wheel off the ground with my wife on the back. I thought when we get to their next stop, Carissa is going to give me shit, but nope, she was like, "That was freaking awesome."
Fuck yeah. Chris has never said that. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, nope. She only uses that word for bad.
The bad. If
Yeah,
she says,
if she's
fuck
really,
yeah,
really
she's
mad.
mad. You are dead.
The F-bomb with her is when things have gone nuclear. You're like, okay, yep. No, somebody has done fucked up, or this is a very, very bad situation.
I'm thinking I know him.
You may know him very, very well.
Oh God, I hope it's my brother. So you got to rip and roar. All right. So I got a little bit of a story. I was starting to tell you about it, and you're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Is this for the podcast? So it's not a crazy story, but it is a story. So, so I'm working at a hotel right now, doing a little bit of work, and this couple shows up a couple days ago, and they got in a motorcycle accident north of Fort Nelson. This older couple, they have ridden everywhere in America, and a lot of Canada, more than most Canadians I know, and they have ridden everywhere. And they were north of Fort Nelson, and there was a structural failure on their electric line,
Yeah.
and something happened that seized up the
A
front tire.
structural failure.
Structural. I don't know which part of the structure.
Okay.
Like, I
Well,
think
if it seized up the front tire, it had to either be the brakes clamping down, or they lost the front bearings.
front bearing, or I think something to do with the crash bar spun down, seized the tire up, and like
Oh,
just
shit.
force
Okay.
them to dump the bike essentially.
Yeah.
So they dumped the bike and everything.
I never thought of a crash bar doing
Yeah,
something like that.
that's the thing,
That's
like-
dicey.
The way he explained it, and he's like, I've got so many friends who are Harley mechanics, and all of them tell me this is it once in a life, like this never happens, and they've never seen it before. So anyways, they had this little accident, and they are in their 80s. Well, no, she is about to be 80, and the older gentleman is in his 80s, and they're from Florida. They're not from here. So they got flown to Dawson Creek's hospital. I don't know why Dawson and not Fort St. John, but they went to Dawson, got fixed up there, came to Fort St. John because they were flying out of Fort St. John back to Florida. And so, yeah, we just had these conversations. We're chatting, and all of a sudden they're waiting for their cab so they can go for a good old American dinner at Denny's. Because they're like, we're tired of... We just, you know how you...
It's the restaurant of the free and the plate of the brave. Thank you very much.
I want my American breakfast.
Grand Slam.
Grand
Tell you that,
Slam.
man.
Fucking A.
They can't bring that, but now.
So you know how it is when you just have a rough week. You just want to eat your comfort.
You want comfort
want
food.
what you know. You don't want to fucking. You don't want to have Korean. You don't want. I never have been like, oh, do you know what I need? A good sushi. Like,
Yeah, when
no.
when you've had like a really, really bad day,
It's like, no, I need to clog my arteries
you're
with steak.
tired, you're hurt, and
Yeah.
yeah, you want comfort food, and nobody in the world has ever said that about sushi.
Yeah.
I mean, I love sushi, but that's not comfort food.
No,
That's your I'm out on the town, I'm feeling cute food.
Yeah, yeah. My wife wants to go somewhere fancier, and I love my wife. I've never gone out of my way to be like, do you know what I really want? Sushi. I like sushi.
Oh,
I'm fine with it, but I've never gone out of my way.
I'll
for it.
mess up a whole plate of sushi.
Oh
Hell
yeah. Yeah.
I'm an indiscriminate eater though.
Just no care.
I fucking love everything.
Yeah. I'm a little too Canadian in that way. Is that I'm a picky-ish. Anyways, so this couple, they call a cab to go to Denny's, and the cab's not showing up. I don't know if you know this about Fort St. John, but we have a shitty cab service here.
Yeah, for such a small town, you'd think it wouldn't be that hard.
And I see them everywhere. How do you not? I see cabs everywhere all the time.
Do we even have Uber here?
No, we do not have any ride share services, which is why they're so complacent and shitty. I believe that. I believe that they are so shitty because there's no competition. What are you gonna do? Call nobody? we'll be there when we get there. So essentially that's what happened. So she's in crutches, and it seems, from what I can tell, she's never used crutches before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel bad because she's got a busted ankle or whatever. So they're okay, which is great. Yes, they got a motorcycle accident, but they're in great shape, all things considered. But she is busted up a little.
Yeah.
And so I feel bad. And I'm like, hey, I've got my minivan here. If it's okay with you, I can give you a ride if this guy doesn't show up. Like, if you guys want to, because they were thinking about just going straight to the airport as soon as the guy got there. They got no bags, but they're hungry. And it's like, well, what food is at the airport? And it's like Indian food.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we can't do that. And so I'm like, all right, cool, we'll get you to Denny's. And so I was like, hey, I'll give you a ride. So like, oh, we'll see. We'll give him 5 more minutes. So they gave him 5 more minutes. He still didn't show up. And so I'm like, and they're like, we'll take you up. And I'm like, cool. So I throw him in the van violently, crippled and all.
As one should.
As one should. Throw Americans. And, yeah, we threw them. I got them in the van, gave them a ride to Denny's, stopped right outside the door, blocked people from walking. I don't give a fuck. I'm helping these people. And so I get them in the door. It's like, oh, why don't you come in for breakfast? I'm like, I'd love to, but I got to get back to work. Here's my phone number. If you want to ride to the airport and know that you're going to get there on time, just give me a call. I'll help you out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, they eat their dinner. They give me a call, and I go pick them up, give them a ride to the airport. Had some great conversations. Learned that there's similar faith and love whiskey, so I'm like, oh, we're talking whiskey and all this stuff, and it was just a really good time chatting with these people. Good old Florida people and I love Florida. That's the thing. No helmet law, and
Mm-hmm.
he made fun of the whole no helmet. He's like, you know what they say, wind in your hair, brains on the street. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. I get it. But yeah, so it was just having a good conversation with them. And they asked, and they were like, oh, what do you do for work? And I'm like, a little of this, a little of that. I also got a podcast because I'm a whore and I just talk about this all the time. And it's like, what is it called? And they're nice old people.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if I want to tell you.
I'm like, it's not appropriate. There's better ones out there. So they're sweethearts, and I'm like, oh, just wanted to take care of them. And they gave me $40 American just for bombing them around real
So
quick.
that's like $300.
Yeah, feels like it. Inflation makes it too. So yeah, they have no idea how much they helped us when things are tough and you get a little 20 thrown your way once in a while. It's like, oh,
It can go a long way.
it can. It really can. It can fill my tank up.
Mm-hmm.
It cost me $26 to fill my tank yet today. I'm like, oh, that hurt. So, yeah, that's been my week, helping people out and then doing construction, and yeah, I felt really good about helping them.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most Canadian things I think I've ever heard you do. It's just go, just being there for people out of town and helping them.
The thing is,
Just helping them get through a tough time.
yeah,
You know.
and the thing is, I ride motorcycles, so I sympathize the idea of, man, like, if I had been in that situation, I would love if somebody would have gone out of their way. It's not my job to fucking drive people around. It's not my job to be nice to you. It's really not.
Well, I mean, you know, when you and I were traveling south a few years ago, and my timing belt skipped on the Valkyrie,
Oh, yes.
like, yeah, Rob had made a couple calls for us, and next thing you know, somebody is, you know, made a half-hour drive to come pick us up and put us up in their house, you know, on a whim.
Yeah.
And, like, just be the most amazing hosts and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
that stuff does come around. And
Yeah.
when the opportunity comes for you to reciprocate to a total stranger, you take it.
Yeah. Do it. Well, just what is it going to cost me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, like, yeah, I'll piss some people off by not being there for 15 minutes because I told these people I'm give you a ride. And even the guy that I'm working with, he's like, hey, we don't have insurance for this. So if something happens,
You're off the clock.
you don't work here. Like, you're on your own time. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I don't care. I drove hyper. This lady's injured. I'm driving as carefully as I humanly can.
Sorry, that's probably sounded really loud. Mike gave me these whiskey stones that are like literally dice.
Yeah, I told you, dice.
Yeah, and they are loud in the glass. That is for sure.
But that being said, he's tapping into the, what is it called again?
This is the Basil Hayden
The Basil
Kentucky Straight
Hayden.
Bourbon. This is the one that I was talking shit about a couple weeks ago.
It has grown on him with no ice. So if you're gonna try it,
Yeah,
try it
this
without
is
ice.
one that does not stand up to ice.
But it's got some nice kick to it. Otherwise,
Not kick. It's just smooth. That's why it can't have ice. Is because
Yeah.
it doesn't have the robustness to stand up to being watered down.
yeah, that's
But
good.
on its own, like this, just neat.
Very
It's good.
Very good. Maybe we'll grab a spray bottle and just spray the vapor above it, just to give it just a
No, you drink it straight while thinking about going to the bathroom. That's enough moisture.
that's enough moisture for it right there.
Right there.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on.
Move on to what we're actually going to talk about today.
What's the thing? Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel.
Sacrifice and murder.
Sacrifice and murder. I think far too many people focus on the murder. I really do. I think it is one of those things that gets way too much attention. All right, Genesis 3. Should we actually read it out or just assume everyone knows the story?
Let's just assume everybody knows the story.
All
I mean,
right.
you can look it up on the internet right now if you'd like to.
Pause this, read Genesis chapter 3, the whole chapter. Not even a whole chapter, but better to read the whole chapter. And then
That's 4.
Come back.
It's actually 4.
Is it 4? I thought it was 3.
It's 4.
Fuck, whatever. Read it. Cain and Abel. So Cain makes a sacrifice. Abel makes a sacrifice. One's a goat herder or a shepherd or
One's a shepherd, one's a farmer.
a cattleman, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, and the other one is a farmer, like farmer. If you live in Saskatchewan, you know. And God accepts the sacrifice because back in the day they recognized that sacrifice must be made.
Okay,
to
well,
God.
your commentary. So let's just get the
Sorry.
let's get the story out there. So Cain and Abel, they are brothers. They are born of Adam and Eve. Cain being the first son of Adam and Eve, as it shows up in the Bible,
That's right.
and Abel being the second.
Keep
So
going.
Cain makes a sacrifice of the fruit of the earth, of what he farms, and Abel makes a sacrifice of the animals that he is.
Oh no, not
herding.
just an animal, but his best. His best animal.
Best. Yeah, so first fruits of the ground, first fruits of
And not
of
the first
field.
fruits. He gave his fruits. It didn't say first fruits, and that's why it needs to be particular.
Okay.
It's just trying to remain consistent. He
All
gave of his fruit, or
So
whatever.
yeah, so God regards Abel's sacrifice and not Cain's. Cain gets jealous, and God asks him, "What's going on with you?" And he says, "Well, you accepted his sacrifice and not mine." And God said, "If you do well, you will be you will be accepted."
Yep.
And sin is sin is at your doorstep, and you must rule over it, or it'll rule over you. And then Cain takes his brother and murders him.
Yep.
God confronts him about this, says, "Where's your brother?" He says, "What? Am I my brother's keeper?" And he says, "Your brother's blood calls to me from the ground." And then
Which is again God asking questions he knows the answers to.
and then he curses Cain for this, but also protects him from dying and sends him into the wilderness.
Yeah. So I have a few things.
So what's your thoughts on what's the angle you want to take?
I want to take the sacrifice itself.
Okay.
One, what was Cain's proper sacrifice? What was the sacrifice? Was it supposed to be his first fruits?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say. Was he supposed to trade with his brother his grain for some meat for a blood sacrifice? Was he supposed to do that? But we're talking about, according to the Bible, the second people. Like these are their parents were the first, and they were the second people in all of humanity, according to Scripture. Again, a lot of prefix on this, and there's no way to know. All they know is that God chose to favor Abel's sacrifice over Cain's, and told him, if you would just make the right sacrifice, things would go better for you. So it got me thinking. on the sacrifice. We know people that will sacrifice a lot. They have put in so much time and energy into so many things. Like they will take these, they will take time away from their family, away from their kids, away from their wife, away from everything else, so they can work their sack off, and so that their kids are taken care of, and then their wife cheats and leaves them, or just leads him on, or will just fucking ruin his life. That man was making a great sacrifice by sacrificing his time with his family and his kids to make sure that his family and kids were taken care of.
Okay.
So his sacrifice, that's why I'm trying not to belittle Cain's sacrifice, because too many people do that. They're like, oh, it wasn't a blood sacrifice.
Well, there was nothing wrong with the sacrifice.
But that's exactly it.
There was nothing wrong with the sacrifice.
But I've heard Christians
100%. I've heard it over and over and over again that
Cain,
well, obviously it's better to sacrifice blood than it is to bring whatever you're farming, because God, demands blood sacrifice for sin.
Yeah, and
it's part of that pre-substitutional atonement theory.
Yeah, and I've had this idea for a long time too, and it's my own theory, that it's not that Abel's was second, it was that it took no heart. I don't know if you've ever killed anything, but it takes something out of you.
I don't think that's exactly what it is.
No, I don't think it is. I don't. No. But for a long time, that was my view. My view was that it took nothing out of it. Like, it takes nothing out of you to kill it, to take up a harvest. It takes work and sweat and cussing.
Yeah, that was exactly the thing that God said to Adam. Literally, like a few verses ahead in the story of Genesis, where He said, "The ground will now, produce thorns, and by the sweat of your brow will you eat of it." Like it's like
it's work, and
it is.
And He recognizes, hey, this is gonna fucking suck.
Yeah, I come from a long line of farmers. My dad and I aren't farmers, but like everybody before that, since coming from Europe, has all farmed.
Oh, my dad too. My dad was a farmer.
Yeah. And like that is brutal work. Yeah,
it is backbreaking and thankless. Fucking thankless.
There's a story of, our fearless leader, Miss Trudeau. Freudian,
we don't know.
Freudian slip. I don't know. Whatever he identifies as today.
I have not heard him say his pronouns.
But his sperm donor, you can't say father either, because that's masculine. But his sperm donor.
Hey,
sorry, at least the one that we think...
The person who may have conceived him carried a gun.
The person who led the country, who was supposedly his sperm donor, we don't know that for sure, because maybe that came from someplace a little southern than the southern border.
He used to carry. I could respect that, man, for that.
The first Trudeau, I guess he was traveling by train across the country, doing his tour of the country sort of thing, and saw farmland and a bunch of farmers out there, and said to one of his closest guys, he's like, I don't even have the foggiest idea what the fuck these guys do. Like, they're just guys that are supposed to do that.
This is them.
This is them. And like whatever it is about their life, I don't care enough to have an idea how hard it is.
Again, I can respect that. At least he was honest, and he's like, I don't know what. Now, if he respected it simultaneously and be like,
that's the
but
thing.
He didn't have that. He didn't have the respect to understand. I don't fucking know anything about this.
It was an arrogant, like, peasants. What do they do?
Yeah, exactly. So
anyway, continuing
going with that thought. All right, so farmers, yes. So he gave his grain. It doesn't say whether or not it was his best. It says he gave.
It says the fruits of the ground.
The fruits of the ground. But some people say he should have given his first fruits, and if he gave his first fruits, it would have said first fruits.
That's Christianese bullshit, though.
I know.
What the hell does first fruits mean?
Yeah, the first to go bad. If you're picking fruit, the first thing you're picking, that shit's going bad first. The last, or the mid's going to be your best, and the last is going to be your ripest for the longest, and it's going to be ready for later on in the season. So there's this Christian idea that, oh, it wasn't good enough, and then it's his fault, he got angry. No! He fucking made a sacrifice! And then it didn't pay off, or it didn't find favor in the eyes of God.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now here's another thing that no one ever fucking points out. Abel made the right sacrifice in that instance.
Yeah.
In that instance.
This
But
time.
he did not have his eyes open in other areas. He did not know that his brother was pissed off at him enough, like, to that point. Could you? I don't know. I'm an older brother, and okay, your younger sister. Is your sister younger or older?
Yes, younger.
Younger. Did you ever feel like she got away with a little bit more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit of malice, kind of like, fuck,
But I'm sure she thought I got away with murder too because I was the first and the favorite or whatever. Like that's asymmetric insight.
Yes. Where maybe how naive was able to think, oh, everything's cool. Yeah, sure, let's go.
Within the realm of the story, murder's not a thing yet, though.
Like in the realm of, sorry, just my brain always kicks back to an evolutionary like.
So within the narrative,
within the context of this, murder is not a thing. Being completely naive to how they can be hurt.
Yeah, I was listening to a book the other day, audiobook, the comedy one about apocryphal accounts of the Bible, just like recast in a comedic way.
Yeah.
And so this guy was going over this Cain and Abel thing and being like, he accosted Abel, and then he's just like, why are you doing this? This hurts. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm new to this just as much as you are. I don't know how to kill you, dude. It's like, well, make it stop. Like, just do it already. What if I hit you here? Ow, that just made it worse. What about here? Oh, well, that was a little bit better, but I don't think I'm dying anymore. Until he finally hit him in the head. He's like, oh, that's the money shot. There it is.
He's still breathing, but a few more there. I'm pretty sure I'll fucking figure this thing out.
This is as new to you, or new to me as it is to you.
That's great. So that sorry.
That's a fantastic book. It's called Apocrypha Now. It's fantastic.
Now. That's so good. So he made the right. Abel made the right sacrifice. Cain did not. And Cain doesn't get any signifier. Then maybe if you'd make the right one, things would go better for you. But don't sin. Yeah, I'm pissed off. Or yes, I won't accept this thing that you gave me. Or look, even he's still. I don't know if it doesn't say it doesn't accept. It doesn't regard. So what's the difference between accepting and regard? You could take it and still be like, oh, thanks. It's like that person who gives you a card for your birthday. Well, everyone else give you a card plus $20.
Yeah,
you regard those ones. But if you just got a card for your birthday and it said like nothing in it, like "Oh, happy birthday," you can be like, "Oh,
I guess
thanks."
the thing is, like, according to the Bible, like later on in the Pentateuch and Leviticus, God actually gives commandments for offering of the fruit of the earth. Like it's actually part of the ritual.
Yeah, but how is Cain supposed to know that?
He's not, but at the same time, I'm stepping in a little bit here of viewing, like I said the other week, viewing this Genesis account through the lens of the rest of the Pentateuch, right? As if kind of like that's their foremost framework for their religion, and then they look back to Genesis for color. But anyway, sacrifice of grain, like God loves it. He says, like, this is a sweet and very good, pleasing aroma to me when you sacrifice like cakes made of wheat and honey. It's a complementary part of sacrifices of atonement, not lesser than flesh.
Yeah.
So that's not the thing. I can't imagine somebody who's familiar with the book of the law and all that looks at this and is like, oh man, he gave the wrong sacrifice. Blood's better. They wouldn't have thought of that. They thought, oh, Abel brought his part. Cain brought his part. These are complementary portions to sacrifice to God.
Yeah.
And this is what you're supposed to do.
And I think
so it has to be something other than the thing.
So with that in its understanding of these are equal. Mm-hmm. But do you ever just notice that some people make a sacrifice that you don't make? Be it our buddy there that has he's a mortgage broker. And you being a construction worker, which one of you works harder between you two?
Physically?
Physically.
I mean, but he definitely puts in hours. He
does?
Puts in work, puts in stress. has to wheel and deal and make connections.
That's
like
right.
It's a legit job.
It's a legit job. But some people would look at his sacrifice as lesser of a sacrifice because he's not sacrificing his body. He's not sacrificing his future movement. But he does pretty good for himself.
Mm-hmm.
I hope. Man.
Hopefully.
I hope so. I really do, because I love the guy. He's such a good dude. I got to chat with him a little bit on Canada Day. He had his car there, and I got to hang out with him.
Nice.
And he's phenomenal. Anyways, he is a mortgage broker. He doesn't work physically, but he does make a sacrifice. Because for a long time, do you ever think that mortgage brokers just start with good money?
Oh, no.
No. He made his sacrifice.
It's like being a starving
early.
artist for a while.
Oh, yeah. You don't start on the top. You don't just start with this. No, you have to make, I assume, very little for a long time. Not a long time. Oh, quite a while. For as hard as you're willing to work, as much as you're willing to sacrifice. But he is making the sacrifice in the right time and in the right place. Now, his sacrifice and your sacrifice is...
But I can get resentful about it.
Oh, you could?
Right? Yeah.
Like, I put so much more work. I work my sack off. I am sweating buckets because it has to be hot. I can't have air conditioning because air conditioning fucking sucks out my job. And you could get really mad about it. Or you could recognize, and this is where Cain failed, to recognize that your sacrifice, maybe not now, but it is still a sacrifice. Endure, stay, wait. But he didn't do that. He got bitter. He became angry. But at the same time, yeah, why wasn't my sacrifice recognized? I did make one. But are you making the right sacrifice? When I sacrifice money into the stock market, I'm making a very wise, calculated decision, and I'm thinking about it and going about it all the right ways. And then you have these other people come in and they're like, fucking Bitcoin. And they throw all their money into it. And either they do really well or really horrible, but if they do really well...
Because it's a volatile market.
It is a very volatile market. But to say that that their sacrifice will not be looked upon favorably, and mine will because it was really thought out, no, it's not up to me.
Mm-hmm. So I get what you're saying. However, I think maybe you're taking the language of sacrifice here a step too far, or at least a step too far out of what it means in the narrative.
Yeah.
Like thinking about sacrifice as, oh, this is my work, or this is the time I put into doing this for my family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm straight up stretching. I am looking at it from the universe doesn't give a fuck what.
Yeah. So, because that's not like traditional sacrifice. Like traditional sacrifice isn't just like giving up what you work for, or presenting what you work for, or like looking at sacrificing your time in exchange for something, because that's just market.
Yeah.
So sacrifice in the context of what's going on here is ritual participation with a deity, or with a being.
And that's where I'm trying to separate a little more and trying to make it a little more
because we live in a world that doesn't have religion.
Yeah.
Like you and I, like, so we have to look at this and we have to be like, okay, how do I make this apply to me? Because we don't have
a sacrificial system. We don't
have pagan gods that people are sacrificing their stuff to, or children to, or things like that, right?
Yes,
like
but
we think of it as an existential concept.
We still have
not a reality of dealing with gods.
But we still have economic sacrifice. We will sacrifice things today in economic means.
But that is a... trying to think of the words to use here. That's a metaphorical borrowing of language from a concrete reality for a different culture.
Yes.
And borrowed it to what we do. But we're not doing the same thing that they're doing.
No.
So trying to make it as if one equals the other isn't the right thing to do. As much as you can look at one and be like, okay, we do something like that, but it's not quite that.
I hear what you're saying, but is the physical manifestation of something not to a spiritual idea still not effective? Because I do believe that there is an effectiveness to a physical manifestation to a spiritual idea. I think that you can do it. They can mirror one another and be like, okay, maybe I'm sacrificing, like giving tithe to my church. I'm doing it not just because the Bible says so, but also because I know that somehow economically there
I think
is
that is only true as if there is no spiritual realm.
yeah, but almost like a karmatic nature. But
Yeah, I mean, you could
which I
look,
don't
you can
believe
look
karma,
at
so
it
that doesn't
you
suck.
can look at it materialistically, and it makes sense as if we sacrifice for things, or we can borrow that language to inject into materialism.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is a realm where there are real deities asking for worship, asking for sacrifice, asking for you to participate in life with them and become one with them, and they will, like,
Yeah,
they will use that and use you, and there is a God who wants right worship and worship towards him, and he will, you're participating in spiritual things. That's a whole different thing that this doesn't quite apply to.
yeah. But that's where I am trying to deviate. I really am. I'm directly trying to deviate from the actual text and looking at
And that makes sense
the
metaphorically.
principle yes.
Like, it makes sense metaphorically.
Yeah. And that's where I'm actually trying to pull away from that.
But I think fundamentally, from a Christian worldview, we can't go all the way that way, though.
No, I'm not talking about going all the way that way, but also looking at the idea of this guy made a sacrifice. He did. Even if you take God out of it, sometimes we make sacrifices in our life, and it doesn't pay the way that we think it should. Or it's like, I sacrificed so hard. Well, this guy sacrificed too, but he sacrificed differently than you did. And guess what? His fucking paid off, and yours isn't going to. It doesn't matter how much you sacrifice, because the sacrifice you made wasn't the right one in that time. Cain's sacrifice was the wrong sacrifice. It didn't matter what it was going to be. It was going to be wrong. Because in that, if it was different than what his brother did, it doesn't matter what it was. That's what I was trying to get to. I wasn't trying to say that it's. I'm not trying to bleed off the spiritual narrative. I'm trying to bleed the meta narrative to it. The bigger outside of it. That it doesn't matter what your sacrifice is if it's not the right sacrifice in the right time. Just like if I don't do something.
Again, I disagree.
How so?
In regards to the lesson to glean from this story, because I look at it through the lens of the rest of the Pentateuch.
Okay.
I see it. It is the right sacrifice, the right time, and it's still disregarded.
Okay.
That's a different question than doing the wrong thing. Betting the wrong thing to give God isn't what happened here.
Yeah. No. You see, I have a hard time with that too, because so many times it's just the free will nature of some things. Mm-hmm. Where is there in that regard? Is there anything he could have done, or was he going to be made an example of no matter what? Was he always going to be Cain? Was he always
no? Because he was given a chance to repent.
Yes, but what would we have learned in the grand scheme of everything from the scripture if he didn't kill him? Would we have learned about murder?
I guess one can't really say. I suppose it would fundamentally change the story, but if it fundamentally changed the story, then we probably would have a different lesson to learn down the line.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a what if, it's a what if sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it my way, like, given if it's the right sacrifice, if it's the right sacrifice at the right time, in concert with his brother's sacrifice, what is going on there that is so wrong? And it has to be his heart. It has to, because like the rest of the Bible even says, like, regarding the meat aspect of it, right? In what's the last book of the New Test or the Old Testament?
The last book of the Old Testament. Let's see if I can get there faster than you.
Yeah, what is it here? I feel like it's something starts with an H. Malachi.
I just
So
got
yeah,
there.
in that one, God, totally gives the temple priest what for, being like, do I really desire meat? Do I really desire fatted calves? No, I desire your heart.
Yes.
I desire your attitude. And so when I was reading this whole thing, like I was like, okay, so like that's not good enough either if your heart's not in the right place. You know, that's
Then so any action done out of religious inkling, not even if you're trying to just put yourself in that place, even if you don't feel it, any action done in that, if your heart's not in it, don't bother.
or at least if it's in pride. So that's one that
Okay, yeah, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference between pride and heart. Because if you're like, no, I have a sense of responsibility. I need to do this, even if I'm not there. I feel like this is something I need to do.
And I think there's something that I think there's something there that God will bless. Like even when you're not feeling it, you know, even when you're not feeling something, of being like, you know what, in faith I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna do this. In faith like there's something there. But I think so. I was listening to a speaker yesterday talking with Lex Friedman. He's a Catholic bishop talking to Lex Friedman, and they were talking about the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
You know, from the Catholic perspective. And he was like, well, really, like the big one you got to look out for is pride.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to humility. And he was describing pride not being just like boastfulness, but of like, it's almost like being a black hole of self-awareness, right? A black hole of ego, of entitlement, of thinking, you know, always of yourself. And as opposed, humility isn't just putting yourself down or trying to be the humble guy and shy away from spotlight, or to bat away people's compliments, or to always try and make yourself look like dirt. So like that's not humility. That's like a subtle form of pride right there.
Yeah, it's
like a false humility.
Passive pride. It's like, oh, you know, it's the way God made me.
Yeah. You ever like pay somebody a compliment and they're like, oh nay, don't give me the glory. It's all about the big guy upstairs. Yeah. And you're like, you say that like such a smug son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Like that is just as prideful as if you'd said, well, thanks for the compliment and moved on,
but
right?
It's a very Canadian thing too, to be like, oh, thanks, but you know, I didn't do it for that reason, or oh, don't thank me, or whatever. I have trained myself to be like, thanks, I try my best, but you know, I'm just doing what I can when I can.
Glory to God.
Glory to God, who giveth me the air.
Yeah.
To breathe and breathe onto you. So
this guy was describing humility in like this really poetic way. It's like humility is like being in that space, like when you're watching a good movie with your wife, or you're in the middle of being enraptured in a good book, or in a flow state at work, or you're just like offhand something comes up and you meet the need without thinking about it. It's like being lost in the moment.
Yeah.
Where yourself disappears, or at least the ego that is trying to rationalize and make yourself the hero of your own story so much, where you're just kind of like lost, like a dog chasing the ball that is master thrown, right? Like that dog is having the time of its friggin' life.
Yeah.
Going after the ball, bringing it back. You know, he's not calculating. You know, he's in the moment purely. He's like, that's like the purest form of humility, is kind of like just being in that moment. And pride is like the total opposite of that, of always inserting yourself in the moment, in like this black hole of self-awareness, or awareness of how people relate to you and things like that. And I heard that. I knew we were coming up with this conversation. I'm like, oh shit. Oh my gosh. The thing that Cain did wrong is noticing that God regarded Abel's.
Oh, okay.
It's in the noticing and the becoming bitter of it, because like at that moment he wasn't just like, oh, I guess but you know, maybe better luck next time.
Instead of being happy for Abel either, like being like, hey man,
because
you had it.
It didn't say that God said this isn't good enough.
No.
All it said was God had regard for Abel's.
Yes.
So, and then him looking at that, being like, why did God regard Abel's? At that point, he got in his own head out of pride and like this black hole of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And one of the things that pride does is it births envy and wrath
and malice.
Oh,
malice, yeah. And that's a seed, man.
Like all those are children of pride.
Yeah. And
and this like overall being too self-aware.
yeah, and it's amazing. Do you know what really blows me away? This whole story just kind of gets skimmed sometimes or read into
It's
the wrong
so
way.
like
There's so much
there's
there.
so much there. I mean, like, I know I was trying to add a different element to what you were saying, but honestly, like, everything you were saying about,
Making the wrong sacrifice.
all that is
Or the
good
right
stuff.
sacrifice,
And
but
all
in the
that's
wrong
good
time.
stuff, and it's all color baked into this story.
Or, yeah, I think that's a better way of putting it. It's not that it's the wrong sacrifice in the wrong time. It's the right sacrifice in the wrong time. Or, I don't know. It's still a good sacrifice. That's the thing. We try and disregard it and be like, no, it wasn't. No, it was a good. It was.
It was a good sacrifice. And in Leviticus, God said the sacrifice that, like, it's described the kind of sacrifice of the fruits of the earth, and it says this is good and very pleasing and holy to the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that wasn't a problem.
It was his heart.
It was his heart. In the same way that God went after the guys giving fatted calves like there's no tomorrow in Malachi, he says, I don't give a shit about this. Your heart's not in the right place.
Yes.
It's your pride and your arrogance and your lofty opinion of yourself over everybody else makes me hate this, what you've given to me.
All right. Speaking of things that irritate me.
Yo.
So that pastor that was speaking on Sunday that he said something, but he didn't say anything at all. He started talking about, people standing still or trying to look cool in church or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, you got to move. You got to do this. You got to do that. Like telling you what to do. And the whole time I'm like, so you want me to make a spectacle of myself when my heart's not in it? You want me just be like, hey, look how holy I am, or look how enthused I am, or artificial or not. Just, and I'm like, there's one thing to be said for righteous indignation, I think the word would be, where you're just like, I don't care what anyone thinks, but there's another thing to be a spectacle of yourself. Like, is that actually where you're at? And I hate that. I hate when people are hyper, like, it's like, are you genuine in this? If it's real, great, awesome. But is this a show? Why do you need to be in the front? Why do you need to be so spectacular? It's like those people that just need to be fabulous all the time.
Fabulous.
And like,
that kind of feeds into this idea of like self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing this out of like this desire to like project yourself as somebody who's really into worship,
yeah,
or because you really feel the music and stuff like that, or when your self just is boom right there,
yeah,
rather than or even when you're consciously holding yourself back, like, I'm not going to make a spectacle of myself, I'm not going to do this, I'm judging everybody around me that is moving, instead of being concerned about your own inward relationship with God before worship. Like, that's just as bad.
Yeah.
You gotta find some way to get your fucking ego out of the way.
Yeah. And that's such a fucking struggle for me. I'm sorry, but I am hyper conscientious about how I react to church. I'm like, if I act this way, how will it be perceived? Not just by myself, but others. Like, are they going to be like, that's not real? And I'm like, or do I just keep it quiet to myself? Even with a lot of the actions and how I move, I'm like, I overthink it to the point that I'm like, now I'm just in my own head.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It really is. Because you don't want to, I don't want to act insincerely in this moment. But at the same time, I also don't want to make a spectacle and all these other things. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, where am I at? And then it's over. Yeah. So, there's so much there.
Yeah. So like, when you're approaching God, it's like, just, try and experience some rapture, I guess is the thing, regardless of the outward expression.
Yeah.
Just try and lose yourself in some way, even if it's just in thought.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why even when I go to some places where, I don't know, they're not on my level or your level, and I'm just like, okay, what can I take from this?
I don't know, what level do I have? I'm sitting here talking about worship and then dropping F-bombs.
Yes, yes, but you wouldn't even let me go meta on Cain and Abel. You're like, no, we got to go back to the Pentateuch.
That Pentateuch.
The Pentateuch.
Not because there's anything special about it, but just because like I'm trying not to stray too far away from the context.
Yeah.
And still trying to be like meta, but without.
You see, I tried doing that, and you said go straight meta, and I was trying to go more meta on this one, and you fucking turn around.
Because I'm also a hypocrite who doesn't know what the fuck I'm doing. Thank you very much.
At least we all know it. We all know it. Oh, this is another fun one. I just think there's so much there. That's the thing.
It is. There's so much meat to this. Like
people
this is one where like I almost don't care what you take away. Just get into it.
More than just murder is bad.
Yeah,
if you look at this and be like, Cain is bad for murdering, and that's all you fucking got, you're not.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's like you think killing's bad.
Oh,
We've got
takes.
Sherlock Holmes on hand.
Oh,
I can't believe you fucking figured that one out.
Do you got any other controversial opinions?
So, one of the things actually that I really enjoyed about thinking about sacrifices, like, and this story kind of highlights a problem with sacrifice, because if you're the one bringing sacrifice, you're always going to have this competition within yourself or with somebody else. Is this good enough? Is God, we're going to regard this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, frick, man, Jesus is genius. Because he took away that and instead said, no, I'm giving you my body and blood.
Yeah.
Like, God reversed it. So instead of God being the one demanding sacrifice, the God is the one saying, you sit there and I'm going to sacrifice myself for you and give it to you to eat of and to receive me.
Yeah.
Instead of me receiving all that you have.
Yeah.
And that's the new covenant that he gave us.
Yeah.
So you can't have this problem with Cain and Abel anymore in a theological sense.
No.
Because God said, nope, I'm providing.
Yeah.
Dinner's on me.
Yeah. And the whole, you can't outdo God. You think, it's like, well, God didn't do this. Well, I can do that. It's like, no, fuck you. He gave in ways that you can't give. Mm-hmm. He did it all. Like, you will never out-sacrifice God. You will never out-give God. You will never out-inspire God. Like, there's nothing you can do or say.
What can you do to compete with the Eucharist?
But there's so many people that try. There's so many people that were like, well, I could do this. It's like, no, you don't understand. You can't.
Yeah.
And if you try, you're going to fail. You will be a failure. No matter what you give, no matter what you sacrifice, no matter what angle you try and take, you're never going to be enough.
Get over yourself and receive the body and blood.
That's right.
Just, get over yourself.
I just love how we do this with whiskey and cussing.
Fucking A.
Fucking A. This is such a fun thing to do. I keep telling people, it's like, we're Christians doing a podcast, but Christians should not listen to our podcast.
Yeah. And if you're wondering about this God that we worship, like, that's just, I think that's an important thing to know.
Yep.
He's not sitting up there being like, you need to do this and this and this, or I will
smite you,
or I will send you away to the hinterlands like Cain. He's saying, no, come to me. I'm giving myself to you.
Yeah. Earnestly and honestly. Like, I don't know, even going to church sometimes feels like, I feel like an alien. Like, sometimes, but at the same time, I'm like, there's something here. You can't detach that. I have such a hard time because knowing what we know and learning the way we've learned, and I'm like, but the reality of how real it is and how I'm like, I don't have to understand everything. I don't have to have it all together. I'm not looking for healthy people. I'm not looking for, like, you know how these people, they're like, but all hypocrites go to church. I'm like, yeah. You don't see, like, healthy people.
Yeah, but they're also here. They're also at the bar. They're also at work. Like,
yeah, at least they recognize. Well, they may not recognize, but you don't go to the hospital and look for healthy people thinking, that's where all the healthy people go. It's like, no, they're all sick there. That's why they're there. So, yeah, Yeah, it was good. Anything else for the week?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Are we gonna try and get the ladies on next week?
I'm not sure if that's going to work on Carissa's behalf, but
Yeah, we only have one.
let's not make any promises.
Not have it. Hey, do you guys even want to hear our wives?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Although by time they would hear this, we would have already had
If
it in
they don't
motion
come on next week, then you're not going to hear them for like 3 or 4 weeks. So
or more.
or more, because you know how hard it is.
So
to line
disregard our last little line of conversation.
Well, no.
You'll find out, or you already
Or-
know. You already know.
You
if
already
this has
know,
happened.
or you don't. But either way, one, do you guys want to hear it? Two, fuck you. We'll do what we want.
Boom schwang.
Because I want to have my wife on, but they want to. Oh man, they fucking suck at that. Like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Fucking anything. It's like, yeah, but what?
That's
We
the
need to
thing.
Study.
Like my wife wants to talk about something very, very specific, and I'm not sure if that's going to lend itself to a 4-person conversation. So I'm not sure if them together is going to work as much as divide and conquer.
Better yet, we allow them to have an idea what we're going to talk about, and we fucking derail it.
Sabotage.
We
We sabotage the whole thing.
we just say yeah, we'll talk about this, and then we'll like we'll get around to it, and we just not intentionally like say fuck you. We'd be like we'll get around to it, and we'll just have a conversation about where the fuck we want to talk about, because that otherwise they'll be far too in their own head. And if we can keep them out of that,
Just do a total shoot the shit on one when they're expecting a very specific conversation to have.
yeah, we'll just talk about what it's like to support such
Oh,
great and
my
holy
gosh.
men doing such a vital work.
Just make it all about us. This is
Again,
yeah.
it's all about us. It's all about your
It's
husbands.
like we learn nothing. Oh, that's
Submit
funny.
to your husbands. Your wife has only listened to the one so far?
Yeah.
Any? Oh, I fucking realized something.
Yeah, what's up?
I gave our free will one. It took me a long time to get around to listen to the free will one. I fucking hate listening to myself. I won't do it anymore.
You're done?
I'm done. I'm like, man, I sounded retarded. I felt stupid listening to that. And then I hear other people like, no, it was really good. Or, oh, yeah, there was some parts you go. And I'm like, I'm far too self-critical to actually listen to it, because I'm like, oh, it sounds horrible. Like when we were talking about the light slit experiment, I'm like, fuck. I knew what I was like. Even looking back, I was far too drunk. I told you we should have cut that into more than one, like into 2 recordings. And I knew what I was trying to say, but I was not articulating it very well, and I'm so mad at myself. But it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we did it.
It happens.
It
we're
happens.
gonna look back on this whole first year of podcasts eventually and just
Fucking
be like,
amateurs.
oh man, yeah, total amateurs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like some of the ones that have been the roughest have also been the funnest, and I
Yeah.
don't regret those experiences.
Yeah. It's
Like the funnest one we've done has been the one that will never ever see the light of day, ever.
unless
Burn it with fire.
we get so big that we can have one of those
Those Patreon
a
things.
Patreon things, and like 10 years down the road.
no,
I think we get away with 4.
I wouldn't even put it out on that.
No.
I wouldn't do it.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was. It would be. I think it would be like we put it out, but don't listen to this.
There would be whole sections with like nonstop bleeping just to keep people's names.
Oh
off
I forgot. I gotta like
off
edit
the
the
air.
shit out of that one.
That one's burn it with fire material.
Yeah.
And and
I think it's good to
Travis even knows it. Like I talked with him on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, we can't do this." we got way too Western that day.
Yeah, he did. I say he because I didn't get Western. I still tried to keep things on board.
But I don't even mean regarding the liquor, just the conversation itself. We were all over the map in some pretty deep weeds.
Yes. The thing is, it makes it
And
sound
like we were arguing and talking over each other.
Oh, I know. It was fucking horrible.
You can't even listen to it.
No, it's inaudible.
Burn it with fire.
Yeah.
I know it's a digital file and you can't literally burn it with fire.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We get a torch. We put it on its own SD card. We put it on a torch, and then we set it on fire. We can do
That
it.
sounds expensive, but also awesome.
I have one, a small SD card.
Okay.
I can transfer it onto it.
I think ritually we need to do it.
Ritualistically,
We need to ritually cleanse ourselves from that experience.
just have them over.
You'll see,
Maybe
like,
we should try to do that next week.
you see like little evil spirits be like flying away from it in the fire smoke. Did you see that?
Oh, maybe that's what we should do next week is have Travis on.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It's a lot easier if we do it earlier and he's not tanked.
Yeah, because we recorded until like 2 a.m. that night.
It's fucking horrible.
Oh, we ate like 50 hot wings and a whole pizza.
Ate
That
on the recording.
That we ordered while we
the
were recording. After we were recording for like an hour, we ordered wings. The wings took 20 minutes to get here. We ate them and then talked longer and then ordered a pizza. After that, it arrived and we ate the whole damn pizza and then still talked for an hour.
It was mumble mouth, and he was talking like he was standing over here and talking on his mic. At one point, he was beside his microphone, like. So I was about 3 inches, 4 inches past my microphone, slightly on the right hand side there, and that's the way he was speaking at some points. And I'm like, "Fuck, this is gonna be bad."
But the thing is, like, that was such a fun night.
Oh, it was the funnest.
That was such a fun night.
The thing is, that's the way we are normally. We can talk like that as bros, but we can't record that shit. That's just us being bros. That's us literally doing what we do when we're outside a campfire
But it was
at 1
fantastic.
a.m.
I love it.
Like, it was great.
I'm looking forward to what kind of campfire conversations we'll get up to this weekend here.
That's right. You got a birthday. When is your actual birthday?
It's next Tuesday, but
I get back Tuesday.
yeah, we're celebrating over the weekend here at a gigantic pig roast dish. Although without a pig, we're doing a big prime rib at a buddy's acreage.
Yeah, and
They do a yearly deal, and we're going to it this year. It's right around the time of my birthday, so it's kind of like, well, we'll tag in birthday celebration with this. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
There's a band that's been rented. There's
Yeah.
a lot of meat that has been purchased.
And by the time you listen to it, it's all done.
Yeah,
Like, there's no, like, where's my invite?
Yeah.
Fuck you. We already did
We
it.
already did this. Yeah, we're camping out. We're camping out that night.
I got to talk to you about that really quick to make sure we got all our ducks in a row.
All
But,
right.
what was I going to say? Oh, and then I'm going to Saskatchewan on Sunday.
Yeah,
I'm leaving for Saskatchewan.
that morning. You're taking your trailer away and then going to Saskatchewan.
Yes.
Saskatchewan, eh?
Saskatchewan, and I'm going to go spend 2 days with my sister, who doesn't listen. I hope she doesn't listen to this.
Oh, I fucking hope she does.
I don't.
What's your sister's name?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I hope you're listening to this right now, and I hope you're deeply disappointed with your brother, and you should tell him that, and you'll be my favorite.
The problem is
Now that you've had an official shout-out, we have to give you this episode in person, too.
The problem is she overcompensates. She's like, oh, now I need to say fuck more. Like, my brothers did that. My brothers called me up.
Oh, that's so
And
good.
they're like, hey, what's up, my fucking bro? And I'm like, why are you talking like that? And it's like, well, you say it enough. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's not you.
You're being a little Cainish right now, and you're overthinking it and being too self-conscious. See, I do it naturally. That's why it works.
All right. Well,
All right,
I think we got to let you guys go.
With that, God bless, guys.
Don't be a dick. That music has been brought to us by Kirk the Riffer Wells at Liquid State Audio. He is the guitarist, the producer, and the mixing engineer. Thanks from Mike and Devin at the Blue Collar Philosophers.